Hello guys, welcome back. In this video, let us see about one more interesting service in AWS, that is AWS Lambda. What is the service that we are going to learn in this video? AWS Lambda. So what is this AWS Lambda, sir? What is the type of service that it provides me? It provides you computing service. Which type of service? Computing service. Sir, actually we have learned so many compute services right till now. We have learned about EC2, ECS, EKS, batch. Then what is the variation that this Lambda has? What is the advantage that this Lambda provides? So till now you have learned many more compute services, but this compute service is totally different. So when you compare with EC2, there you need to maintain servers, right? But this is a serverless compute service. What is this? It is a serverless compute service. AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service. What is serverless, sir? Serverless. To understand about the serverless architecture, so let's see with server-based, server-based computing service. So what is the service in AWS where it provides you virtual servers, where it provides you virtual servers in AWS? Easy to write. Yeah. So what do we call the servers created by using EC2 service? We call the servers that are created by using EC2 service as EC2 instances, right? Yeah. So let us see and analyze how those EC2 instances hold my application. Let us see the architecture from top to bottom, how it is holding my application and what are the things that we need to take care while maintaining the EC2 instance for application running. So let us analyze what are the things that I need to maintain while while creating or running or deploying my application in EC2 instance. So what we are doing now, we want to check it, right? Yeah. Let us analyze server-based compute service model by using EC2 service. That is, let us analyze the maintenance. What are the things that we need to maintain for host or application if I use EC2? So first thing first. So to to create this, that means to install my application, do I need instance? Yes. So do I need to create and manage that instance? Yes. I need to create an instance and manage that instance. So what are the things do I need to manage for that instance? Auto scaling I need to manage, and high availability is also I need to manage. To manage my application, do I need to download all the softwares, all the dependent softwares required for my application? Yes, I need to download all the dependent software that are required for my application. So let's install at software installation. And so to maintain my instance updates, do I require patching? Yes, patching updates are required. Okay. So to in order to run my application, do I need to paste my code in my server, and do I need to launch my server? That means do I need to deploy and launch my application? Yes. So these are the things I need to maintain whenever I'm using EC2 instance. I'm using EC2 instance as my compute service. So these are the things what creating and manage my instance, software installation in it, and patching of my instance, deployment and launching of my application to get the result, right? Yeah. So here, what are the things that I'm maintaining? I'm maintaining whole my infrastructure of instance. and software updates that are creating me a lot of tasks, right? Yeah. Now, is there any service in AWS to take care of my infrastructure? That means I don't want to manage my instance. I don't want to install software. I don't want to manage my instance patching. I just want to maintain deployment and launching of my applications. I just want to focus on deployment and launching of applications. Is there any service that provides all the instance infrastructure as well as software installation? Yes, there is a service. What is that service? That is Lambda. Since in Lambda, we are not taking care of infrastructure and maintaining the software installations, we call this, since we are not maintaining the server right here, so we call this Lambda as serverless compute service model. So if anybody asks you why Lambda is serverless, because we are not maintaining server while using Lambda. Lambda enables you to focus on only deployment of your deployment and launching of your application. You don't even need to focus on creating and managing your instances, patching updates of your instances, and software installation of your instance. Who will maintain all these for you? These all will be maintained by AWS. Since it is a serverless computing model, it's service provider responsibility. Who provide you this service? AWS. So AWS responsibility to take care of server providing. You just need to, what is your responsibility? You just need to deploy and launch your application. There you have a focus on your coding part or deployment part. You don't need to maintain about the infrastructure. So whatever the infrastructure and software providing will be maintained by whom? AWS. So these all things will be responsible by AWS. What customers responsibility, what our responsibility deploying and launching our application is our responsibility. So we call this AWS Lambda as serverless compute service. So I hope you understood what is the difference between server-based and serverless computing service in AWS. And you understood about when do you use this serverless computing service, that is Lambda. If you want to run your code, then you can have ability to choose this. To run our application, to run our application in EC2, we can able to create instances. We can able to create instances there. Whereas coming to Lambda, we can able to create Lambda functions. To run our applications, we can able to create Lambda functions. In AWS Lambda, we can able to create Lambda functions to run our application. So let us see how the Lambda function will look like. So let me open my AWS console and show you. Here you can see, how the code look like. Here you can see how the Lambda function look like. So here you need to focus on, just three things. What are the three things is, what about the input? This is what the input. We are sending this input to where? This function. What is the function name? This is the function name. So for this function, that is Lambda handler function, what is the input that we are providing? Event and context, right? Yes. So this input is one thing that you need to focus on. And second thing, you need to focus on this function. You need to focus on this function logic function. And finally, you need to focus on result. Whatever the thing that you are returning, that is your result. So let me write it there so that it will be very understanding. This is how I just copy pasted whatever the code which is present in the Lambda function by default. So let's analyze it with a general a general case. That is generally how function will look like. So you can see what is the function name, that is Lambda handler here, and whatever the input parameters that we're passing, those are input 1 and input 2, and you need to write your code here. What does this code indicate, sir? This code indicates your business logic. This code indicates your business logic. So if you want to access other services, here itself you need to provide the permissions by importing certain resources and libraries. You can provide permissions here itself. You can create how many number of environment variables you want here. So you can also provide, so while creating a Lambda function, while creating this Lambda function, you need to return the result. So to write a whole this data, do you need to tell, do you need to specify how much amount of memory that you require, right? So to write this code, first initially you need to tell, right, how much amount of memory that you require. Yes. So specifying that memory is nothing but whatever the CPU or memory you are specifying, that is how much amount of power function needs. Indirectly you are specifying that. So how much amount of power that is required, indirectly you are specifying that. So this memory specification will lead to your function allocating CPU power. So based on how much memory you provide, that much CPU power will be allocated for your function. Whenever you run this function, you got the result, right? Yes. So to run this function, does it require CPU power? Of course. So based on the memory that you allocate for the function, that much amount of CPU power is provided. So based on how much amount of memory provided, that much amount of proportional CPU power is assigned to your Lambda function to run that Lambda function. Whenever you run that Lambda function, then that much amount of CPU power is utilized. So can I say how based on the memory provided, do the charge may incur on my account? Yes. So based on the amount of memory that you use, that much amount of charge is incurred on your account. Okay. So for this, how many different ways can I provide this code to this Lambda? How many different ways can I provide this code to Lambda? We have two different ways. We have two different ways to upload your code to this Lambda. First way is directly write code in Lambda function. So whatever the function that we have, directly write your code there. And another uploading way is also there. The uploading way is you can upload the zip file or file which is present in S3 bucket. First, you need to upload your code in S3 bucket. By zipping the file, you can upload that file. Then you can able to access that file from this Lambda function. So these are the two ways where you can able to accept your code to the Lambda function. Now, now, so in order to run my code, I need to specify which language, right? Which programming language do I need to run, right? Yes. So where can I able to specify, sir? I can able to specify, I can able to specify that by using runtime. What? By using runtime. Here you can see I opened the console. So there are multiple options. This Lambda supports us multiple programming languages. That is, it's supporting us .NET. We can even provide our code in Java. We can even provide our code in Node.js. We can even provide our code in Python, Ruby, and so if let's say whatever the programming language that you want is not available, if the programming language that you want is not available, then choose this custom runtime. Then choose this custom runtime. By using this custom runtime, you can able to provide your, you can able to choose, if your language is not there, then in the list you can choose this and you can run that based on the required programming language. If you want to run it in C, then you need to do configurations here for accessing that particular C language code in real time. When do my Lambda function will run? Whenever, whenever that Lambda function is invoked, at that moment of time, that Lambda function will run, right? Yes. So let's say in general, all cases, when do we execute the code to analyze the result? To analyze the result for certain inputs, we execute the code, right? Yeah. So to run this Lambda function, do I need to provide input? Yes. So can we assume like whenever input comes, this Lambda function will be executed? Yes. So whenever your input is invoked, whenever your input is invoked to this Lambda function, then this Lambda function will run. So while invoking, you also need to provide what? Your input. So while invoking, you also need to provide your input. Let's see what are the different invocation options which are possible for Lambda function, right? So Lambda invocation options, let us see that. These are the different ways where we can able to invoke our Lambda function. Your function could be invoked directly by using AWS console, or you can do programmatically by using SDK or toolkits or CLI, and you can able to invoke your Lambda function based on triggerings, event triggerings, and schedulings. That means, so what is the scheduling, sir? If you want to execute your task at certain period of time at 8 a.m., then you can execute this Lambda function by using scheduling. So whenever, let's say a event happened, if I want to execute this Lambda function, then you can use this triggerings. So you can use this function URLs. You can use this function URLs, which is an HTTP endpoint that enables you to run your Lambda functions. Whenever you enable this function URL with at the Lambda function, it provides you a HTTP endpoint. Whenever you whenever you type that HTTP endpoint from browser, then this Lambda function will be triggered and executed. So these are the multiple invoking options we have. By using any one of the invoking method, if your Lambda function is invoked, then what happens? The code which is present in this Lambda function will runs and provides you the result, right? Yes. So this code runs and it will provides you the output. What are the result? That output is provided by this Lambda function, right? Yeah. So here, if you want to store your result in any one of the service, that is SQS, DynamoDB or SNS, whatever the storage you want to put, that is, you want to put that result in wherever you want. So this is the first thing, that is providing input by using Lambda invoking function. And whenever your Lambda function is invoked, then the code in it will run. This is the second step. And then after executing your code, that is business logic, you got the result output, that if you want, then you can able to store it in background stream resources, right? Yeah. So these are the places where, some of the places where you can able to store your result. So coming to these invoking options, coming to these invoking techniques, they're again classified into two types. First one is service based invoking and second one is API calls based invoking. First one is service based invoking. Second one is API calls based invoking. If if AWS service invocation happens, then AWS service invokes your function. AWS service invokes your function. You cannot select any invocation type. AWS service will select the invocation method for you. So if the invocation is API invocation, if the invocation is API invocation, then we have to select one invocation technique. We have again API invocations are classified into three types: synchronous, asynchronous, stream based. That is pole based technique is there. So among those three, you need to choose any one of the technique. If the invocation is happened by using API invocation. Let us see about API invocation techniques in next video and monitoring services of this Lambda function in the next video. So that from there we can finish our theory section about Lambda function. I hope till now you understood everything that what we have teached in this video. So if you feel this video is contentful, then please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. See you back in the next video. Until then, bye bye. Thanks for watching again.